And you are on the platform. And look, I must admit, slight ulterior motive to our next guest today, who's going to comment on some interesting research, some polling that has come out of the Human Rights Commission, which shows every indication, and as David Seymour said, as appointments come up, we're going to be more careful about how we put in who we put in charge of these institutions. And can I just say, I've been heartened, despite the attempts by their woke staff to stop us talking to them. I've been heartened by the attitude of the new Human Rights Commissioner and the new Race Relations Commissioner, Stephen Rainbow and Melissa Darby, respectively. And some interesting research polling has come out of the Human Rights Commission, who engaged in an outfit called Horizon, who have got a relatively good reputation in polling, to ask people who they trust to provide accurate information about the treaty or Te Treaty of Waitangi. And I just want to run through these results before I talk to our guest about them. The most trusted source for this, and would kind of be if you want to know what happened historically, our most trusted source is the National Library of New Zealand. And that's way up. That is way up. It's 45%. 44%. A year ago, it was 45%. So a slight drop in trust, but it's still less than half people trust what the National Library of New Zealand would tell you about the treaty. Don't forget also they censored Paul Moon because he was going to say things at a function they were holding that they didn't like. How many people trust the Waitangi Tribunal to tell them the truth about the treaty? Well, actually, that has gone up from 36% to 41%. Books, website, podcasts that cover New Zealand history, not much change, 33%. And the survey's been done twice, once in 2023 and once in 2024. How many people trust the Human Rights Commission to tell them the truth? 25% in 2023, 29% in 2024. Do you trust the National Iwi Chairs Forum? That's the Maori elite. Only 15% of you in 2023 trusted you to tell you the truth about the treaty. Now 19%. And it goes down through non-government organisations, friends or family, Maori language. Now, Maori language news media, are they giving you a free thing? No, only 6%. Only 16%. English language news media. How many of you trust them to tell you the truth about the Treaty of Waitangi? Only 13% of you think they would tell you the truth. And actually, I don't know why we have split it out between Maori language news media and English language news media. That seems racist to me, but we'll average it out. Only 15% of people trust the news media to tell them the truth about the Treaty of Waitangi. Members of Parliament, no one trusts them to tell them the truth about the Treaty of Waitangi. Was 7% in 2023, 10% now. Political parties even further down. You all recognise that social media is a load of todge on the Treaty of Waitangi. Only 7% of you believe that they will tell you the truth. And it's pretty sad. No organisation really appears to be trustworthy on this. And I'm aware of this stuff because Bob McCoskrie, it was reposted by an outfit called The Facts. And Bob McCoskrie posted it on social media and I think made some very pertinent comments about what it says. And Bob McCoskrie from Family First joins us now. Bob, how are you? You there, Bob? Oh, we got you. Yep. You there, Bob?
Yep. Hello. How are you? Good to be with you, Sean.
Thanks, Bob. Bob, this is a really interesting survey, not just on the Treaty of Waitangi issue, but it's about who anyone trusts about anything in our society, and it paints a pretty sorry picture, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what was most kind of revealing to me was just the massive distrust that the New Zealand public have. But interestingly, it's a massive distrust in probably what is their greatest source of information. So, I mean, going in reverse order, as you said, members of Parliament, 90% of us don't trust them. The news media, about 85% of us don't trust them. And I mean, that's a massive kick in the teeth for the news media, who of course have been pushing this very strongly. But then again, it's also a punch in the mouth for Te Pāti Māori and the Greens and David Seymour even that actually people aren't trusting what is being said. They're going to, and what I find interesting is that they're going to places that, even though it's still under 50% trust, the National Library of New Zealand, the Waitangi Tribunal, books, websites, podcasts.
And here's another interesting: people associated with educational institutions. And I've noted a trend that the news media run off to experts from universities, and I'll be brutally frank, our universities are hotbeds of craziness. It's where critical race theory comes from, the idea of decolonisation comes from, the weirdness of transgender, that's all being driven largely by universities and people who are in sinecures and university faculties. But they're way up there in regards to the treaty as one of the most trustworthy groups.
Well, that's what worried me, was that there was still a level of trust in academics. I mean, the advantage of the National Library of New Zealand, despite their censoring of Paul Moon recently, which was, shameful to their shame, but at least National Library of New Zealand, you have source documents and you're sort of not indoctrinated. You are presented with the evidence and the paperwork. Same with the Waitangi Tribunal, I guess, to a certain extent. Books that cover New Zealand history, I guess it depends who you're reading, but hopefully a cross-section. Yeah. As you said, I agree with you totally. The Human Rights Commission is actually showing some semblance of normality with the Stephen Rainbow and Melissa Darby. Some good comments made, especially against John Minto's ridiculous attack on Israelis holidaying in New Zealand.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think the reason I posted it was just the noise on this whole treaty debate, which, I think 300,000 people have made submissions. It's obviously an issue that people want to discuss, and yet the source of information for a lot of these people, most of the heat is coming from the media. Now, 85% of New Zealanders don't trust. That's actually lower than the AUT study, which had trust in the media at 33%.
That was last year. I suspect if they're going to repeat that this year, it's going to be even worse. And could I make a delineation? Legacy or mainstream media? I'm not going to put the platform in there.
Yeah. No, although I did laugh at the bit where you just alluded to about social media, the disinformation project to get all apoplectic about, what's going on social media. And yet New Zealanders actually have a level of discernment, and they know that stuff on social media they need sometimes to take with a grain of salt.
I think New Zealand collectively has a wonderful BS detection system.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's why the trust in the legacy media is dropping, and that's why all this alternative media is springing up. Actually, that's one area that I hope that maybe they can put in future surveys, because interestingly, you'll notice one of the third most trusted is podcasts.
Yeah.
Now, that could be any of the podcasts like McBlog or The Platform, or, podcasts coming out of various sources. So non-governmental organisations is quite high up as well. But it was just a kick in the teeth to the mainstream media, who have tried to put so much heat around this issue, tried to shut down the debate because they think that they know the answers. And at the end of the day, 15% average trust in what the media are saying to us. It's quite shocking, but it's actually not surprising.
Yeah. Bob, I want to talk in a broader sense, and people should know Bob is going to the same conference I'm going to. I'm leaving Friday, this ARC conference in Britain, and I think it's just a fascinating time to be there, Bob. As a new wave of, and I'm not going to call it conservatism, I'm going to call it common sense, seems to be sweeping the world, emanating from the change of president in the United States. And I was reflecting this morning, Bob, that we seem to have a government that is tone deaf to the mood of change that is abroad around the globe, and will not embrace the idea that middle New Zealand and middle everywhere has had enough of radicalism and wokeism and virtue signalling. Do you think New Zealanders and the New Zealand government is missing the boat in terms of the international mood or the mood in the country?